Hello and welcome back to Johnny's Kitchen. So today it's a weekday. I want a quick supper. It's not going to take me long to prepare, but I want lots of flavour. And of course, when you need lots of flavour in a hurry, herbs are very often your best friends. Of course, along with garlic and chilli, ingredients like that pack a real punch but take almost no time to incorporate into your meals. So the star of today's show is this wonderful parsley. So perhaps the most underrated of herbs. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that really love this stuff, but more often than not, we barely see it and we barely taste it. Typically, you might see a little bit of parsley chucked on top of a dish where you will never catch its flavour just for a little bit of green fluff. But if you make this the star of the show, this can really pack a flavour punch. And when you get to taste it properly, it's really delicious. Now, I've just picked this, so this is as fresh as it can possibly be. And all parsleys are not equal. That is certainly the case. I think the flat-leafed parsley it's well known that has a better flavour than the curly. Of course, personal tastes differ, but I think in general it's widely accepted that that's the case. And then there are all sorts of different varieties. Now this one is one of my favourite plants in the garden. It's a fantastic, vigorous, really productive plant. This is Gigante di Napoli, the giant of Naples. And yeah, it's well named because the plants are pretty big, extremely productive. And then when you look at the individual leaves, well, they are quite impressive too. So quite a different beast from some of the small parsleys, and this is packed with flavour. So I'm going to prepare that in a very classic, simple way. I'm going to make what the French would call a persillade, simply parsley and garlic. That's the basic form. You don't need to do any more than that. Chop the parsley, chop the garlic, mix it up, and that is then a great addition to all sorts of dishes. You can pop that in a soup or a stew or wherever you need to lift the flavour. I'm also going to take that and turn that into a sauce. Very simple. I'm going to add some capers, a little bit of red wine vinegar and some olive oil, and that will transform it into a fantastic dressing. It's the sort of thing that you could put on all sorts of meats, particularly grilled meats and fish as well. So parsley stalks have tons of flavour, but I think in this, I don't want all of this stalky texture in there. There's plenty of stalks if I just pinch off these leaves here. I'm not getting rid of all of the stalky material, but I'm getting rid of that tougher bit there. And you can add these stalks to all sorts of dishes. They are not without flavour, but I just don't want their texture in this one. So on all of these, I'm just taking out these three main stalks. Doesn't take long. And I've got a mountain of this here, but it is such a generous plant. You can keep the parsley going for a long time. This was probably sown, I would have thought, late summer or early autumn, and it's been cropping all through the winter. Now, of course, it's natural for it to start to go to seed, and it is throwing up those thick stems that will eventually try to bear flowers. You can keep cutting that back, but it's a losing battle. The plant really does want to flower now. So I've got more parsley just ready to prick out. So that will take over from this when this stuff is gone. But before it goes, I want to make use of it. It's in really perfect condition. But this is, I think, rarely troubled by bugs or anything unpleasant. It just produces and produces. And the flavour of these big leaves there it's really intense. And well, this is one way to get to experience the full flavour of the parsley, to give it a starring role instead of a little sprinkling on the top. This looks nice and clean. I'm just going to give this a quick rinse to make sure. You don't always have to bother, but I think I will on this occasion. So I've just shaken off the worst of the water there. It doesn't matter that it's a little bit damp now. It's not going to be a problem. So I'm going to use my Persillade in two different ways. One very classically with potatoes, and the other I'll use the dressing to liven up a simple piece of grilled chicken. So the first job is to chop the garlic, and then I will chop the parsley, and then we'll get that all mixed up. Well, these are great big cloves, so I'll cut those in half first, and then I will give them a bit of a smack. Now I'll just chop that through. Rustic is fine, don't have to do anything clever here. Now I don't want to turn this into a paste, but I'll just crush that a little bit. I do want distinct pieces of garlic in it, albeit rather finer than that. Now for some of this wonderful parsley. I'm not sure quite how much I need. I will probably use a fair old amount. And if you're growing your own and it's a variety as productive as this one, you can afford to be generous with it. So I'm just going to keep running the knife through this until it's fine enough. And again, that's a matter of taste. It doesn't really matter that much. Coarse or fine, however you like it. And now I will get the garlic involved there as well. And I'm just going to keep chopping till I'm happy with it. Well, I think that looks pretty good now, so I'm going to call that a day. You can have it more coarse. You can keep going if you really want to, but I want a bit of texture to it, so I think that is pretty good. So a couple of minutes chopping and that job is done. This stuff is wonderful, just as it is. And I think if I've got the fresh parsley to hand, so I would make this fresh each time, but if you want to keep it to use, say, the next day or the day after, I would probably add some olive oil and then cover it and pop it in the fridge. But I'm going to use most of this probably today, and some of the sauce I will keep. So let me find something to pop that in. So I'm going to put some aside for the sauce. That's where I want most of this. And I want some of this for the potatoes, so that's probably about right. So to transform this from sort of like the basic Persillade, the garlic and parsley mixture, into a little bit of a dressing or a sauce, I'm going to add plenty of capers. So these are in brine, so I'll be a little cautious with any salt that I add. Now at this point you could add all sorts of stuff. Cornichons, anchovies, they would go very nicely. Some lemon. I think that's probably plenty. So I'll leave these quite coarse, but I'll just chop through those once or twice. That's fine. I do want distinct bits of caper in that sauce. So next, lots of black pepper. Then I want some olive oil. I'm going to be quite generous with that. And just give that a quick mix up. So, and then just to lift that a little bit, I've got some red wine vinegar. I want to be a little bit careful with that. I'll see how that tastes in a moment. Oh, it looks pretty good. So. Plenty of vinegar. It wants to be just a little bit sharp there, but it does want a little bit of salt. That's probably fine. Right, let me try that now. That has immense flavour. You get all of that parsley flavour. Of course, you've got the warmth of the garlic. You've got the tang from the red wine vinegar and the capers. It's quite well balanced. The olive oil in there just turns that into a lovely consistency. Everything about that is delicious. Honestly, I think if I spread that on my hat, there's a very good chance I'd eat the lot. That could probably stay in the fridge for a few days. To be honest, I have no idea how well that keeps because I've never kept it. It has not lasted so long as to need refrigeration. So that is probably best prepared just a little bit ahead of time. Not so long that the flavors become a little bit muddied, but half an hour, maybe 2 hours ahead of time, and these flavors will continue to develop a bit and improve. And yeah, that is fantastic. So that could be used for all sorts of things. Grilled meat, grilled fish, vegetables. Drop a spoonful in a soup or a stew to really liven that up. So it's a midweek meal. I want a simple supper, so I'm going to get on with the potatoes and a piece of grilled chicken livened up with that sauce. So this isn't just about making the most of the parsley before it runs to seed. I've also got some of the last of our Charlotte potatoes from last season, and we just unearthed these recently when we potted up the new seed potatoes. So these are still in perfect condition. They're only like that because this was from the second cropping potatoes. So simple preparation for these. I'm going to cut them into small pieces. I'm not going to be too fussy. This is all rustic stuff. Whatever size takes your fancy. These will be fairly small so that they cook quickly. Just in half again, and then into smallish pieces. It's handy if they're roughly the same sort of size so that they cook more or less at the same time. So all I'm going to do with these, just drizzle over a little bit of olive oil. I do not want too much. I've got plenty of oil in the dressing there, and I just want to stir these around to coat them nicely. Right, they are ready to get cooking. Now these will be going in the oven in just a minute, but I do like to get them started on the hob, get them sizzling. So I'm going to add some black pepper. A generous pinch of salt, I think. Those are fine now. They're going to go in a hot oven, 200 degrees, and I want those to get a little bit of colour and cook through. Right, to go with my potatoes, I've got a couple of chicken breasts. Don't need to do anything clever with them because they are going to get that sauce. So a splash of olive oil. A few twists of black pepper. And generous pinch of salt. I'm going to season those well. And then I can just rub those around a little bit. Lovely. I'm going to pop those under a medium hot grill. They don't take too long. As soon as they're cooked, I'll take them out, rest them a few minutes, and the job is done. So that didn't take too long at all. The potatoes are nice and brown. They're cooked through. The chicken has been grilled and it's rested for a few minutes. So to turn this into something really delicious from plain potatoes and plain chicken, the parsley is going to get in on the act. So those potatoes, they're just going to get the Persillade, the garlic and parsley mixture. Now you really don't want to cook this for very long. Oh, I'm going to put the whole lot in, of course I am. And all you need to do is just toss that around. This pan is still really hot, of course, it's just come out of the oven. And let me get a weapon. And that is it, just that residual heat in the pan. You don't want any more cooking of that Persillade. It will lose its vibrancy. Very clumsy. Right, now for the chicken, I'm just going to slice this. Right, so some of the potatoes. So also seasonal right now, of course, is the sprouting broccoli. We've got a little bit of that left, and that has just been steamed here, and that will be lovely. A little pinch of seasoning on that. And now it's time for this sauce. Now, over the top or on the side, as you please. I'm just going to put a nice pile on that chicken breast. there it is, a very simple supper dish. Doesn't take too long to prepare, but with that, you're really going to experience that full flavour of the parsley. All of that is seasonal right now. So these potatoes, let's have a little taste. It's interesting actually, there's tons of garlic in there, but it's not at all overpowering, strangely. I think it's tempered very much by the parsley. And now the chicken. Well, grilled chicken is perfectly nice anyway, but this sauce takes it to an entirely new level, and it's really great for a change to make the parsley the star of the show. It might be our humblest of herbs, but I think that packs a real flavour punch. Anyway, that is all from Johnny's Kitchen. Thanks ever so much for watching, and bye for now.